Therapists in some professions, self-care is a self-indulgence. And for us, it's not. It's essential. It is actually literally part of our job description is to be taking care of ourselves well enough so that we can be of service to others. Hello, therapist friends, and welcome back to Love, Happiness, and Success for Therapists. In this podcast, I'm going to be providing a lot of information. I also put together a little handout, like I'll be talking about different exercises, practices, and journaling prompts. And so, I want to make that available for you. That will be a link to grab that in the show notes to the show. You can also come to my website, growingself.com, come to the For Therapists section, and it should be easy to find. But also the easiest way, if we're connected on LinkedIn, just let me know that you would like the download and I'll just message it to you. So we therapists need to take this seriously. Do self-care like it is our jobs, because in many ways it is. And so I'll be sharing a lot of information about self-care, but I just want you to take that first intention that self-care for us needs to go deeper and it needs to be strong. It needs to be actively protective and help us, shield us, buffer us, because we are going in to hard places. So I am not here to bash the bubble bath idea of self-care, because that might be part of your plan, right? But we need to be thinking about self-care as an intentional practice that buffers us from the hardest parts of this job, that can help keep us from burning out, compassion fatiguing ourselves into the ground, or even lead us to wonder why we ever thought it was a good idea to help humans professionally in the first place, because that can also be an unhappy byproduct of people who are not engaging in self-care in a very intentional way, is that over time they come to the conclusion that this is an unsustainable profession. And it might be, that's okay. And with the right supports and also with the right changes that we'll be talking about in this episode, sometimes other opportunities become possible that you can stay in the profession, even if it's in a different way. So, sometimes we joke that in other jobs, self-care is a perk, right? Like the ping pong table in the break room. But in this line of work, self-care is a must. It is a non-negotiable for you. But I also believe that self-care is literally part of our ethical responsibility. And, the reason why is because if we're being honest, we are the tool. It is ourselves. That's all we got, like walking into the room, right? And if we, the tool, are rusty, exhausted, totally depleted, about 3 seconds away from snapping at somebody or engaging in some kind of road rage incident. What do the kids call it these days? Crashing out. We're going to crash out, right? We just have to recalibrate. And ideally, we have a strong enough system in place that we don't let it go that far. So today we are talking about how to do self-care like it's your job, because it is. If you want to pause me right now to go grab that PDF, growingself.com, you can hit me up on LinkedIn right this very second. I'll send it to you and we'll do this together. I made it like an editable PDF so that you could type into it. But this is a plan that I use for myself, supervisees, my practice, and I just wanted to share it with you and walk through it with you. So you will notice once you open up your little worksheet that there are several steps and sections here that are intended to be exercises for you to work through. And the very first one, I believe, is the most important because it relates to our own self-awareness. As I know you know from your work with clients, it is also true for us that we cannot manage or change or impact things that we don't notice. So the very first step is getting visibility into your own wellness barometer. And you have to be tapped into how you're really feeling in order to be able to do that. And I also just want to say that the work that we do requires us to compartmentalize. Even if you are not actually that okay or having the best day, you're coming down with a cold, you didn't sleep well last night, like it's kind of stressed about something. When we enter the room with our clients, what do? We zip it up and we come into the present and we are focused on them and we are there to be who and what they need us to be. Not that there isn't space for some human moments, but like the basis of the relationship is that we are there for them, not the other way around, and that we are, that we have a mandate to keep our own crap together so that we are able to be effective with our clients. And so this can have an impact sometimes, especially if you're doing this 6-8 hours a day, every day of the week. We can start to compartmentalize ourselves. I've seen this over and over again with helping professionals. And it can start to be hard to think about, oh, how do I feel when we're so immersed in how other people are feeling so much of the time. And so the very first step of self-care is to begin to reactivate and get reacquainted with how we are doing. And not that polished version that you show up within your sessions, but actually what is going on. And to be able to do that without judgment and just notice. And when we are able to do this and develop a practice for being able to check in, we can begin to just notice things. And some of these might be great, kind of green light indicators, all right. But some of them can be like warning indicators on a dashboard. And the key here is to notice things like when the fuel tank is starting to get low, rather than keeping going, blowing through all the little dings and like warning until you actually run out of gas. And all of us need to develop competencies into what our warning lights actually are, because this looks different for everyone. So first of all, how do we get awareness? I believe that it requires a bit of an intentional practice, and it could be just journaling every once in a while, checking in with yourself. How am I feeling? That can be super helpful. Of course, if you're in some type of supervision or mentorship to support you professionally, that is wonderful to bake that in. But that's also really one of the reasons why it felt important for me to do this with you and have it be a worksheet that you could print out. And also we're going to do it as a workshop version that will be experiential, so that there is a dedicated space and a practice that helps you tap into that. And then without judgment, we can then just begin to list out what is on the personal list of red flags. The, I am drifting. I am starting to not be in that great of a place, and get visibility. So for me, I will just share personally that, I have noticed a few pretty reliable things over the years. One is that at the end of the day, if I'm just drained and I don't want to talk to anybody, I feel like really, really, really overstimulated. Like my kid wants to talk to me, or my husband wants to talk to me, and like there's all this stuff going on, and I just feel like a pinball machine in my head. That is a warning sign for me. Like if I just want to check out and like turn on the TV and not talk to anybody, I need to pay attention to that. Another thing that comes up for me is having trouble sleeping, like either falling asleep, or I start waking up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and my brain is already going and I can't go back to sleep, particularly if I'm thinking about things related to work. That is a warning sign. I know I have talked to many clinicians in the past whose warning lights have included irritability, feeling less generous with other people, like snappy with either their family partners, but also just less patient with clients can be an indicator, or anxious. And I know that's probably me. I can start to feel anxious over time if I'm not taking care of myself, or just tense. But I think the big ones for me are that preoccupied, checked out, or just feeling like really scattered and overstimulated with the sleeping. So that's my share. But I would like for you just to think about how you feel when you're starting to not be okay, when you haven't been taking care of yourself, mentally, emotionally, sometimes physical environment can be one of the first warning signs. Interestingly, like if when you're in a good place, you're doing a good job of like putting things away and keeping your house in order, stuff like that. And when you are not taking care of yourself, things are starting to fall apart a little bit, or like, oh my God, I need to pay the bill, like whatever it is, mail piling up on the counter. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking and give you a minute to think, and feel free to pause this and take your time, do some journaling, but just really what's going on with me when I am not taking care of myself. Okay. So I'll assume that you've had time to do that. And then with that in mind, that is the warning light dashboard indicator system that all therapists need to have access to. So then once you know your signals, the next step is creating a self-care plan that is multidimensional, that is strong, and that is practiced consistently, with the initial goal, especially if you're coming into this conversation being aware of like, yeah, I'm not doing great right now. So our first goal is we want to get most of those indicator lights back into the green and helping you feel better again. But that this is not something that you can do once. The self-care plan that you are going to be creating for yourself needs to be baked into every day of your life, basically. This is not just one bubble bath. This is not a random weekend off or vacation every once in a while. This is a system. This is a way of being that you just do just every day, all the time, again and again, because it is as much a part of your professional maintenance as continuing education and supervision, but also because it's very important for you personally. And I have said this radical thing before, I'll say it again. I think in our profession, we are so often acculturated to be like client-led, client-centered, client first. And that's so much of what we do. And that's great. Nothing wrong with that, except when people start thinking about the clinicians, like who is helping the helpers. And so, yes, we need to do this so that we do not over time become actually impaired to the point where we can't help people anymore. But the new idea I want you to hold on to is that you are important. Your well-being needs to be just as much of a priority as anybody else's. And in this profession, that is not always part of the conversation. So that's why I'm saying it out loud for you. You are important. You need to be a priority, and you are not doing anybody any favors if whatever you're doing professionally is to your detriment personally. That is not a sustainable plan. So, in case anybody hasn't said that out loud to you today, there you go. All right. So with that intention in mind and that visibility, then we can begin focusing on 5 specific pillars. There are probably others, and I just want to create space for the fact that there may be other things in your plan above and beyond the 5 that we'll be addressing today. But it is important to have a multi-dimensional, multi-pillared approach to self-care, because any one of these pillars is not going to be enough. So just remember that we need to be surrounded by support. The first pillar that is very important for all of us is just space, creating literal space between ourselves and our job, mental space, emotional space, and time. And so this could look like a lot of things, but first of all, it's important to be creating space in terms of boundaries. When are you on the clock? But also, when are you off the clock, and getting really clear with yourself first about when that is. That might look like a lot of different things. It could be blocking out hours when you do not engage with clients, colleagues, or even professional content, right? Like, I do not want to think about anything having to do with my job for this period of time, so that you can just like take a break mentally. And this might also look like giving yourself permission to not be productive all the time. Like, this is my time to rest. Physical environment can be a big part of this, that you have reminders of when you are on duty versus off duty. Some people have rituals that help them create a difference between when they are on the job at work versus when they are literally, metaphorically clocking out. And this is also really important to do if you are working remotely. And that can be very challenging. I think, as we all especially experienced during the pandemic, honestly, is that if there's no division between work and not work, then it feels like it's always work. And that is not good for any of us over time, for sure. So those are some ways of creating space for yourself where you have permission to just not be in that therapy role. Okay. The second pillar that is also an extremely important part of comprehensive self-care is to have physical self-care, a physical component of this that serves a few different purposes. It helps us shift out of a heightened, activated physiological state that many of us can be experiencing, even if we're not fully aware of it when we're on the job, into a calmed, soothed, physiological state. Like, we almost have to calm down our nervous system and focus on our bodies in order to be healthy and okay. So physical self-care is also non-negotiable. And sometimes you can also get visibility into the warning signs when you think about what you're actually doing day to day in terms of your behaviors. But like, for me, that not sleeping enough might be an indicator for you, not eating well, not exercising. And then to think about, when you are in a good place, what does your physical world look like? So that is getting enough sleep, eating food that feels nourishing and is good for you, taking the time to prepare food for yourself that is nourishing and that fuels you, but also moving your body in ways that feel good. I mean, not punishing yourself with like super intense exercise. Nobody needs you to do that. But I think being engaged in regular physical activity that gets up our heart rate. I mean, I'm sure that you're like me, we tell our clients that all the time, but to actually be engaging in that ourselves, and even something really simple, a walk before work or after work, getting outside. I mean, these are the kinds of small things that help us reset physiologically. And that can turn into other kinds of physical self-soothing. If you are a bath person, there's where a bath comes in. There might be other things that you do, yoga classes. I mean, it can look like so many things. Use the eye cream if that is actually part of the plan, right? But the goal is that as you do this, your nervous system calms down, and that you're doing that somehow at least a few times a day would be my hope for you. And I also just want to submit that when it comes to that physical piece, sometimes giving yourself permission to rest and not do anything without guilt is very, very important. So like, I do think that, well, for me personally, like that super checked out, I don't want to talk to anybody, I just want to watch TV kind of thing. When I'm doing that persistently all the time, that's probably not great for me. And is a warning indicator compared to how I show up when I do have more energy. But I have also noticed that it can be incredibly restorative to not do anything and give myself permission to leave all the crap on the counter and go to bed early or whatever, like even the idea of, oh, I need to be engaging in self-care. And if I'm not, I'm failing. Like sitting on the couch and looking at Instagram can be self-care. It's okay. As long as you don't feel guilty and bad about it and that you feel soothed and relaxed after you do this. And especially if you have had one of those days on the job where you can't stop thinking about things, sometimes to like watch a show or read a book or have, a stupid conversation with somebody or just get out of the house, like go out for dinner. It can help your mind get out of whatever it is that it can't stop thinking about that you've carried home with you from your workday. And hey, what are we doing? We're already rolling into pillar number 3, which is mental self-care. And so this is, I think, one of the most important pillars. They're all important, but mental self-care is oftentimes not part of the conversation. People are focused on bubble baths. They're focused on taking time off work, which is all fine. But if you don't have control over like how you're talking to yourself, your own inner critic, your intrusive thoughts about your job, or just how you're managing your internal landscape, like your own thoughts, your narratives, your stories, the things that you're rehashing, like you aren't going to feel good. You could be laying in the bubble bath, surrounded by scented candles. And if your mind is still going into all of these places, you are going to feel activated, and it is not going to be the type of restorative experience that you need it to be because of your mind. The bubble bath itself is not magic. It's like one of the pillars. And so it's important to additionally get visibility into what's going on in our brains, what does not work for us related to that, and then how to shift it into something that is more helpful and constructive. So for me, I have noticed that when I am not taking good care of myself, I'm frequently buying into a narrative that I have to do one more thing, or only I can do this one more thing. I get very like work centric, I'm staying late to do stuff. I have this like hyperactive responsibility thing that's going on that's leading me to like not be able to let it go. Or I'm coming home and I'm being in my personal life and I am still thinking about things related to my work, or at night when I go to bed, laying there thinking about things and just knowing that takes such a toll on me. And so what I have needed to employ are different types of cognitive strategies that can help me get out of that. And so there are, as you know, hey, we're all familiar with CBT, right? But it's good enough for our clients. It works for us too, that this is part of the plan, being able to either shift into a better feeling thought. So helping ourselves reframe and, find a probably more reality-based way of looking at things, frankly, but also, more positive, supportive narrative, but also totally okay to just stop it What do we need to do in order to get off whatever train we happen to be on mentally? And it is absolutely okay to engage in other activities that can just help us release whatever thoughts we are gripped in for that moment. Again, different things work for different people, and your mental self-care is going to look different than mine. The goal here is to figure out your recipe. So what are the usual suspects crowding into your brain? And also, what are the things that work for you in order to practice mental self-care? Now, a fourth pillar of self-care is another one that I think can be undervalued or neglected, particularly for us therapists who tend to be introverts, honestly, but it is related to social self-care. And this is being connected to a community of supportive people who fill your cup and do not drain it further, because we are giving so much energy relationally to other people. And of course, we want to be that for our friends as well. But it is very important that you have at least some of that energy coming back to you in your personal relationships. And this can look like a lot of different things. Professional colleagues can be amazing, people that you can turn to for help, guidance, support if you are dealing with a tricky situation at work, because having the opportunity to talk through things with them, get their perspective, can then close that loop in your mind that might otherwise be waking you up at 3 a.m., right? So utilizing those, cultivating those. I think also having personal friendships with other people who are therapists has been incredible for me personally, but I think I see that happening for supervisees and people in my practice as well, because there's just something about being in a relationship with another therapist where they're like, yeah, I get it. In a way that sometimes civilians can't get, right? And you don't have to explain yourself. They understand what you've been through. And this does not always have to be shop talk, by the way. It can be fun. It can be light. It can be doing fun things together. It's checking in. Group texts, it's all right. But additionally, building other relationships in your life that do not have anything to do with your work at all is oftentimes incredible, because these are the people who will drag you out of this whole, macrocosm of being a therapist. They don't know what you're going through. Not that they don't care about you, but okay, let's go do something different. Let's go skiing. Let's, whatever. And really help you move fully away from what it is that you do, and hopefully help you just have fun and enjoy life in a felt way. So we need all kinds of different relationships in our lives. We have different people for different purposes, and to just make sure that you are cultivating a vibrant, diverse garden of relationships in your life outside of your work, because it's crucially important. Because, one of the biggest pain points that I hear from clinicians over and over again is just how dreadfully isolating this can be if it's just you in a little room with your clients all day long, and not a lot of connection outside of that. And again, particularly if you're working online, you need to have a plan to mitigate this. So there's that. But then finally, a last and very, very important pillar that oftentimes surprises people, because I think, again, we are not socialized to bring our needs into consideration as much as we should. But the fifth pillar is alignment with you, that what you are doing for work is actually aligned with who you are and what you need. And this means that part of our self-care is being tapped into that and thinking about our bigger picture choices from time to time. And this starts with understanding just our values, our personality, of course, that sense of like what energizes us versus depletes us. But that when we're tapped into that, we can then make big picture decisions that are in alignment with our needs, our rights, our values, our feelings, and our long-term goals. And to begin designing a life, including a professional life, that is congruent with who you are and the life that you actually want to be living, rather than just trying to cope and manage with a life that you might feel a little bit stuck in. And this can happen to us professionally. So the alignment pillar is always revisiting the macro periodically, whether it's your work and how you are showing up in this field. I mean, remembering that this is a diverse industry, mental health, there are many things adjacent to this. And some of the things that you could do with a psychology degree or a background in counseling might be really, really good fits for you and might be totally in alignment. And there are probably a range of other options that if you did go into those spaces, could you do it? Yeah. And would it be in alignment? No, not really. And that over time, you would begin to experience the consequences of that, like putting yourself into a situation or a working environment that is really not a good fit for you. So I just wanted to bring that into the conversation because I think that sometimes therapists don't get enough support for or feel like they have permission to be able to consider that in an intentional way as part of our career development. So think about that. And it might be worth considering, especially if you're earlier career and don't have a ton of experience in different environments. Our early years and training experiences are often in clinics and agency settings. And some people, that's their jam. They are in their place. They love it. They want to stay there. Other people need to consider other iterations of this career path, and sometimes even just getting curious. Again, and going back to that pillar of social self-care, having friends, professional connections, other people, just to be able to ask them, especially if they are engaged in different facets of our industry, you know, what's your day-to-day life in private practice or working in with a different client population or practicing a different modality. I mean, these can be very interesting conversations that just open up possibilities for us. So that could be one piece of it. But just to have that be on your radar too, and regularly be reflecting on, who am I now? Does my situation still fit me? Or do I even know what I want to do, which is another important piece of professional development for therapists in an ongoing way. Because even if you are super clear about what you wanted to do 10 years ago, you evolve, you change, your life changes. And so it's not like we just go in a straight line forever. It's absolutely okay to pivot. I have some supports for you on that. The continuing education series that I mentioned, I did one not too long ago on how to identify your niche as a therapist. That'll take you into some exercises that help you excavate some of those pieces. I think that can be very, very valuable. You can find that one on my website, growingself.com, or otherwise just connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll shoot you the link. All right. So here's a starter pack. I hope that what we talked about today was helpful, and I hope you gave yourself permission to think through some of these things as we were talking about them together. All right, my friends, thanks for doing this with me today, and I'll be back in touch next time with another episode of Love, Happiness, and Success for Therapists.